please subscribe and don't forget to press the bell icon to get notified whenever we upload a new video.
It's taken a turn for the worse, you'd have to say. So the bank nifty is now down 0.5%. Mid caps also under a bit of pressure. But as promised, we were talking about the real estate sector, and let's continue that discussion. Prestige Estates has risen for a second day in a row after the company's arm, Exora Business Park, has now begun exploratory talks to divest some stake to GIC. Irfan Razack, the chairman and managing director of Prestige Estates, joins on the phone line to talk about that. Mr. Razack, can you tell us a little bit about this deal? How much stake are you willing to sell, and for what amount? What are you looking at?
Yeah, actually we signed a term sheet with them just now.
Okay.
And the idea is to dilute a certain minority stake into the SPV, into the office assets, which own a substantial part of our office assets, but not all of it. Unfortunately, we are on a NDA with them, so really can't divulge too many details. But only the fact is that we have signed a term sheet and we are working towards the affirmative agreement in the next 60 to 90 days.
Mr. Razack, I understand you can't disclose too many numbers, but maybe some sense of how much stake you're willing to part with, and some idea of how the valuations are being arrived at for this deal?
No, obviously the valuation will be on the rental that is already, which we are receiving, and plus maybe some projections of rent to be received also. Net, the thing is we've got a fairly decent cap rate, and I think our shareholders will be very, very happy and mighty pleased with the type of deal that the company has got. And we are looking at divulging a minority stake that is up to 40%, not more than that. And that's the term sheet that we have signed at the moment. As I said, I can't divulge more details than this. But I think in due course, as soon as the affirmative agreement is signed, it will be more public knowledge.
Okay. Mr. Razack, good morning. How's the market doing, especially the rental market in Bangalore?
Rental market in Bangalore is doing pretty good. Actually, the vacancy levels are near zero. And whatever else is getting built, I think it's getting spoken for. The rentals have gone up, moved up northwards. And that is a good sign. And that's where the yield also is better. And then that's how even the cap rate also becomes better. The overall valuation of the properties become better, and I think it's a good sign. Going forward, I only see more and more pressure on the rental market because not too much is coming into the market. Supply is less and the demand is steady.
Since the market is doing so well and you're getting a lot of, high quality PE players coming into this market, will you be looking to divest stake in any other rental properties that you have?
Currently, this is the transaction which we were working on and which we'll be focusing on for the next 60 to 90 days. Once that is done, we also, we always are looking at various methods to see that we get more and more capital into the company, reduce debt, and also more than that, increase the overall, bandwidth in terms of getting more space, rental space. So this now...
The debt on the books currently, Mr. Razack, and how much do you think you can reduce it to, say, over the next 1 year?
No, I believe the debt levels in the company are fairly, stable. And then with this transaction, even a part of the debt also will go off to our PE partner. Now, the idea is to take this money and use it as a dual purpose, more to grow. You see, now we are also producing more and more assets, which for rental yielding. Now, instead of going in for more debt, this money will be used and it will be debt-free. So that's the whole idea, and that will make the company stronger.
Sir, if you could just go over those details again. You said a part of the debt, and a figure that I have, in front of me is, I believe the total debt levels were around 2,600 crores. If you could just verify that, one. And two, you said a part of the debt is going to move out to GIC with this deal. In addition, the money that you raise because of the stake sale, then what will you use that money for?
As I said, that money will be to grow more assets because we are in the process of constructing more assets. We've got 2-3 choice locations where we've also got approvals which we want to start. So currently we'll be building something like 4 to 5 million square feet. and that 5 million will add up to more. So again, that will be a mixture of more of equity and part of debt, so that will give us a bandwidth to quickly produce in the next 2 years to 3 years maximum another 10 million square feet.
Okay, Mr. Razack, thank you for giving us all the details. That's the word coming in from Prestige Estates. For now, the market is absolutely flat. But as we were discussing, I mean, there's a big cool off in the mid caps and in the bank nifty.
In the bank nifty in particular, Sonia, and on the market as well. And this was the risk that we were talking about in the morning as well. That you're not sitting at 10,300. You've had a rally, and now you're heading straight into that resistance zone. And at least for starters, that's been sold into that zone of 10,640 thereabout. Has been sold into, in the bank nifty now down about 180 points. Ashwani, Mitesh back with us, and Rajat Bose is also with us. Ashwani, I'm assuming that long trade would have been stopped out, but are you, how are you approaching the trade from here on, and what would be the stock calls now?
So in my opinion, this is a fairly soft correction stroke consolidation, and often you will not find great follow through coming in, because the Nifty is still in the green, plus several sectors are still in the green. Today IT is taking up a bit of the slack, so this looks like a pullback. So for the moment we are long, and if people didn't go long, the advice is to still go long, because if this was a correction or restart of the downtrend, by now you would have found out that Nifty is down 100 odd points. But given that, I think maybe by afternoon, etc., buying should come back, because bears will finally show what they have, and if they can't push it further, the comeback will also be fairly strong. Today, Tata Group is doing well, which means that Tata Global, Titan, etc., they are in the green. Plus, Reliance is also showing strength, so oil exploration is doing very well. Having said that, individual stocks, RIL is a buy with a stop of 948, target of 970. Tata Global is a buy with a stop of 273, target of 288. And Titan is a buy with a stop of 828, target of 850.
Okay, the other space that's doing well this morning is telecom. So Bharti Airtel is up about a little over 1% right now, and you also have Idea Cellular that's participating in the rally, up almost about 2% or so. The chart should be up for you. Mitesh Thakkar and Rajat Bose are also with us. Mitesh, what would you do on individual names this morning?
Yeah, so I think I would not be really worried about this fall. I think, there are two things. One is that we have seen 10,630 hold out previously in the earlier bounce back. So which is a level, which somebody would want to take profits if he had gone long yesterday or day before. I think around these levels. So some supply is expected. I do expect 1-2 days of consolidation, but eventually I think this level will be crossed, given the fact that the intraday indicators still, remain strong on the upside and are still pointing towards further upside. So I think that's pretty okay. You might see another 20-30 point dip in the Nifty. I would still be buying there. The stocks that I have identified right now would be ONGC. That's a buy with a stop just below 189 and look for targets of around 199. And LIC Housing Finance I flagged out in the morning. Keep your stop below 515. Look for targets of 540.
Okay, Ashwani, is the 2-day sort of correction in IT over TCS in particular is almost back to that 30-80 kind of level from where it had that small correction?
I would like to think so, because all of these guys are in a strong uptrend. So anytime you have a down day on IT, you need to buy. One more thing I want to point out, that the futures is not losing premium. In fact, when the market was falling, the premium was rising. So definitely that shows that buying is visible. On the Nifty Bank, often you'll see, the premium vanishes, but we are still holding on to a 60-point premium, which shows that there is buying on dip rather than selling. But definitely IT seems to be outperforming, and possibly it should carry the day for the Nifty today.
Yeah, I mean, a couple of these stocks on the mid-cap side, not too bad now. KPIT Tech, since we're talking IT, NCC is having a decent session, as is Biocon, EIL, buying on some of these counters. By the way, keep an eye out on the ADAG pack. That's the entire pack is under somewhat of a pressure this morning. Rajat Bose also with us. Good morning, Rajat. What are your trades now?
Good morning. Till such time the Nifty doesn't break 10,560, actually I would consider any dip as a buying opportunity. And 10,514 to about 10,484 is a very critical zone, support zone for me. So until and unless that gets broken, I would be on the buy side. Now, individual stocks, I have chosen Biocon and TCS. TCS I would buy here with a stop below 3060. On the upside, 3089 and 3098 are the two targets. At least there will be some resistance around yesterday's high level. That's what I tend to think. And regarding Biocon, my stop loss would be 623. I'm buying it. 637 and 641 are the two targets that I have, and these are intraday trades.
Okay, Raja, thanks a lot for those trades. Yeah, I mean, Tata Group stocks really are surging right now. Ashwini spoke about Tata Global Beverages and Titan. There are others as well, like TCS, for example, doing well, and others as well. Ashwini, just one follow-up. Gas stocks are doing well today. IGL is at the high point. I think Mahanagar Gas also there, Petronet LNG, GAIL as well. So anything over here?
See, oil and gas is doing well, so Reliance, ONGC, IGL, etc. So entire oil and gas is doing well. Basically, IGL remains in a strong bull market. This one also corrected to its 200 and now is moving up. So definitely oil and gas looks strong. So oil and gas, tech, and probably things like Motherson Sumi, etc. should move up, plus Tata Group.
And Ashwini, just to repeat, for the long trade that you still have, what's the stop loss now?
See, the stop is basically, you can say the low of the morning, which you can say 550 thereabouts. But my stop is more about market action. How are we falling? Are we falling, collapsing? How many sectors are higher? So many things are taken into account. But for the layperson, I think 550 on Bank Nifty futures, and maybe on the Nifty, say 10,570, 580.
Okay, gentlemen, thanks a lot for joining us and taking us through what is turning out to be quite a volatile day for the market, actually. It may look flat for the index, but there's plenty of downsides in individual stocks. But in an exclusive conversation with CNBC, investment guru Warren Buffett said that he would not rule out owning an airline company in a full-fledged manner. Remember, he has a lot of exposure. Berkshire Hathaway has a lot of exposure in individual airline companies, but he says that he's itching for an acquisition very soon, and he wouldn't rule out the possibility of buying an aviation company.
So still flattish trends as far as the Nifty and the Sensex are concerned, and the Nifty Bank is still struggling pretty much at the lows of the day. But right now, let's move away and focus on the commodity universe and talk about what the price trends there seem to be suggesting. Well, we have two experts joining in on the show right now. We have David Lennox, analyst at Fat Profits, as well as Alistair Ramsey, head of research at Metal Bulletin Research, with us. Gentlemen, good morning. Good to have both of you joining in. David, let me start with you first. The dollar has been kind of thrown all over the place in the last couple of weeks, and that's had its impact on the manner in which even oil has moved. The recent uptrend that we see resuming, do you think it'll last?
Oh, good morning. Certainly, if you have a look at the factors that have been impacting on the US dollar, they have tended to be negative, and we believe over the course of the coming weeks will continue to be so. We have debt concerns inside that country as the tax cuts bite into revenue, and also as Donald Trump looks to fund his infrastructure program. So both of those would continue to suggest a weakness in the dollar. Any weakness that we've seen in the dollar has automatically flowed through to strength in the commodity prices sector, and that we believe will continue to be the main playing card for the weeks ahead.
Okay. Well, Alistair Ramsey, the head of research at Metal Bulletin Research, is also here with us. Alistair, coming to you now. Steel prices saw a very strong move in 2017. There is an expectation that that could continue in 2018 as well because of the recent supply cuts in China. Your own thoughts?
Well, I think if the supply side story that you mentioned were to continue, then for sure there are some upside risks to the prices of steel and for that matter the raw materials. What we notice today is that the very idea that a big city such as Tangshan should extend its winter cuts all the way through November is already pushing prices of iron ore higher. The benchmark that we track at the Metal Bulletin Index team is almost $80 a ton now for 62% fines, which is very high. But the strength of sentiment is related to the steel market remaining tight, which would encourage steel producers to use the best quality raw materials in their mix, pushing up those prices.
Okay, so Alistair, I'll just follow up on that. Do run us through your analysis of the Chinese capacity shutdown. What kind of a demand-supply dynamic impact could this have now?
Yes, that's right. I mean, the target that they originally planned for this existing 5-year period ending in 2020 has arguably already been reached. They've restricted production over the last 2 to 3 years by between 100 and 150 million, and that's not taking into account something like 120 million tons of induction furnace capacity, which wasn't in the original target, but has had a knock-on effect on the steel market balance. So capacity has been constrained to a large extent, so much so, in fact, that some of the leading steel makers in China are now pointing out to people like ourselves and other observers of the market that they're concerned that production can only increase from here on in, and capacity be increased as well, because the targets have effectively already been reached for China.
Okay, David, comment on that. What's your own view of which way steel prices could move from here? And the Indian steel market has been looking up recently. Any thoughts on, the trajectory?
Well, we certainly believe if you have a look at the steel industry, we are expecting further strengthening in the steel prices going forward. Yes, capacity has been a problem, and it's been overcapacity for some time that's kept the steel prices low. That capacity is coming off stream now, as the previous guest had indicated, and that's going to continue to, we believe, put support underneath those mills that can produce at clean rates and at high volume. And that's going to be very good for the steel industry, because it does mean that we are going to see higher steel prices, and with that, certainly the use of quality iron ore, which Australia produces, will be in high demand, and the iron ore price, even right throughout what we've seen in terms of the weaker or correction in the equity markets and the small correction that we saw in commodities, the iron ore price remained remarkably resilient.
Okay, David, in fact, just hang in there, because we also have our colleague Manisha Gupta joining in, and she has some questions for you as well. Manisha, over to you.
Well, thank you so much for that. Yes, we have spoken about steel and iron ore prices, where, of course, the strength has been very, very strong. But, David, I also want to talk to you about the other base metal prices, because we've seen zinc prices double up in last 2 years. We've seen the nickel prices run up because of that electrical vehicle demand story. And, of course, aluminum prices have been running. We've seen stocks of all of these underlying commodities also do quite well. When it comes to copper, nickel, aluminum, zinc, etc., what is your sense? Anything that you're picking up as an interest?
Oh, good morning, Manisha. Yes, certainly the US dollar has been quite accommodating over the course of 2018. So that's been a very good tailwind for commodity prices. The other event that's started to raise its head and is appearing more and more in commentaries is the fact that we are looking at synchronized economic growth across the major economies. China is going to remain flat or grow at 6 to 7%. The US is going to continue to grow at around the 2.5 to 3%. We've got India growing at between 6 to 7%. And even the European zone is now starting to tick up in terms of economic growth. So that all would suggest to us that with that growth pattern now in place, there's going to be very high demand for commodities in 2018. That was anticipated in 2017, and we saw the prices running quite hard for commodities then. But we do believe that we will see maybe not the same momentum, but certainly the same direction in 2018 for basically the whole of the commodity price suite.
Thanks a lot for that. We need to get back to our focus on the equity markets, because now the bank nifty is falling some more. It's inching towards almost a 200-point cut, and now not just PSU banks, but private banks are getting added to that list. ICICI, Kotak Mahindra Bank are all down about 1 to 2%. We'll talk about that in greater detail. Anuj,
not just that, Sonia, even Maruti, I think, is making lows of the day. So, as you pointed out, it's not just PSU banks anymore now. So, this begs asking the question is, is that, move over as far as this trend that we had. IT is still doing well, of course, but for now, today is the classical 20 DMA halt for the Nifty, and this is just a case of some traders trying a short trade, at 25,640. Because if it works, it will work really well, because you've then had a classical bounce and the market selling off from there. If it doesn't, of course, in that case, your stop is very nearby, which is today's high. I think that's really playing out today. So second half today becomes really interesting to watch out for. Got to keep an eye on some of these leading stocks. If they continue to make lows of the day, the likes of Maruti, HDFC Bank, by the way, is now making low of the day. So these are a couple of stocks that you got to keep an eye on now.
Okay, let's get a quick comment from Manisha on what's happening in the commodity space, and then we'll come back and track the equity markets. Manisha, over to you.
Well, thank you for that yet again, Sonia. Well, it really is about the strength in US dollar, which is putting slightly pressure on many of these commodities ahead of the Powell's first testimony ever as the new Fed chairman. So that is the reaction that you are seeing in prices here. US dollar actually has gained 1% in the month of Feb, and this is after 2% decline for the month of January. That is the reaction we are seeing in prices. So some bit of a decline is what we are seeing in crude oil prices. But even with that, it's a 3-week high is continuing for that one. The gold and silver prices have been trading quite flat as well, even as you have seen the physical buying now come back in China. The Indian discount is out. You are looking at very strong buying being reported on a week-on-week basis in the Indian markets as well, and that is taking the prices in slight green. Flat on your screens, but green is what matters there. The base metal prices have been holding well as well, even as the steel and iron ore prices are trading flat. I mean, the kind of gains that we saw in that space yesterday hasn't been able to see a follow-through buying today. But then yet again, the Chinese imports have been on the stronger side. As David was mentioning, you are looking at strong economic data continuing from all consumer countries, from US, Europe, China, India, etc. And that in turn will continue to support the prices. Good going is what we have seen in case of copper and aluminum, and slight profit taking in the other commodities right now on your screens.
Okay. All right, Manisha. Many thanks for that. Well, with that, we